Hi guys, I'm Claire, and I cover a lot of different things on my channel, but today's video is going to be pretty different from anything else I've ever covered on this channel before. We're going to talk about representation in media and why it matters. Growing up, I had a deep love for people and an even deeper love for performance arts. Along with my sister and the occasional cousin, I would write songs and plays, and we would perform them for my friends and family. And you know, there's really nothing like a good captive audience. Like many young girls my age growing up in the late 90s and early 2000s, I sometimes dreamed about what it would be like to grow up and become a singer and a songwriter. But unfortunately, that dream was pretty short-lived. It didn't take very long at all for people to tell me that I just couldn't do it or that I shouldn't. And it went beyond the standard, oh, well, you need to have a backup plan, or there are plenty of talented people that just never make it big, Claire. Somehow the reason for my dismissal was a lot more final and unquestionable than that. I was born with a cleft palate, and people who are born with cleft palates or cleft lips are not expected to make a name for ourselves. We often have significant speech difficulties, like I did, and a lot of us literally bear the mark of our affliction on our faces. I'm sure that my loved ones thought that snuffing my dreams out early was kind of merciful in a way, and that they were protecting me from going any farther and falling any harder, and I'm not mad at them for that. But they never had to be the ones to tell me. I was in the first grade the first time a classmate made fun of the way that I talked. I was in third grade when my Sunday school teacher told me in front of the class that I would probably never be able to get a job, even at McDonald's, so she said. I was in fifth grade when two boys tormented me so much that I developed depression and anxiety, and I began to limit my communication with others to protect myself. I was in the seventh grade when a girl told everyone in the locker room that the only reason she talked to me was because no one else could. I was in ninth grade when my teacher ridiculed me in front of the class during a presentation because I couldn't enunciate to her standard. And I was in my late teens when my then boyfriend called me a hair lip, even though my lip isn't affected, and even though that should never be uttered to anyone ever. You see, no one needed to tell 5-year-old me that I was different in a bad way, because my entire world, sheltered as it was full of people who were all too happy to make sure that I understood that and that I never forgot it. Now, I said in the beginning of this video that I wanted to talk about representation in media and why it matters. So I want to start off by telling you who I felt represented by growing up as a cleft-affected person. Now, the first one might surprise you because it's Moses, and he is an incredibly influential person in the Bible, but somewhere between the whole leading the Israelites out of Egypt and delivering the 10 Commandments thing, most people forget that the Bible describes him as being slow of speech. And most scholars think that that probably means that he stuttered, but we're not really sure what his affliction was. And I didn't care. Up until my very late teens, my speech was pretty much unintelligible for a lot of people, and that made it really difficult for me to form meaningful relationships with new people. But then there was Moses, and Moses did fantastic things, so I could too, right? I felt represented, and that matters. When I was a preteen, I was watching a movie called The Village with my mom, and Joaquin Phoenix plays in this movie, and to my knowledge, that was the first time I had ever seen him. He's a great actor, but I didn't notice his skill or his looks or any of the things that most people notice about him. I noticed that he had a cleft lip. He has what's called a microform cleft, and that usually presents as a small, faint dimple on one or both sides of the upper lip. And there he was, performing as a lead in a major motion picture. And I was represented, and it mattered. Earlier this week, Wendy Williams went on to her daytime talk show, and she had several things to say about Joaquin Phoenix. So I'm going to go ahead and play that clip for you before we continue talking about why that matters.
Suzanne.
He was hot in the Johnny Cash movie. He was
Right?
hot, yes.
And he knows how to transform, like when he shaves that off, but the way he looks at you.
Yes, those piercing eyes.
Right?
Those crazy piercing eyes.
And he's got that good nose. It dips way down. Like he's happy with it. So am I. And when he shaves off his mustache, he's got a hairline fracture. He's got one of those, what do you call it? Cleft lip.
Yep.
Cleft palate.
Yep.
He's got this.
Yep.
He's got this. No, I find it to be very attractive. Anyway, but back to you bachelor chicks.
Now, just for that ignorant, despicable display, I could make an entire video about why and how Wendy Williams is a terrible person, with much more video evidence to back myself up on that. But I'm not going to. I thought about it, but I decided that representation matters a whole lot more than Wendy Williams ever will. You see, the reason that this matters is because when she says and does things like that, it doesn't just hurt Joaquin. It hurts me. And it hurts us. It hurts everybody that Joaquin Phoenix represents in a whole big world that would rather pretend that we don't exist. Joaquin and I are among the lucky ones, because there are many beautiful, perfect children that are born every day affected by cleft lip and by cleft palate, and their lives are much more drastically affected than mine will ever be. It is my honest belief that if more information was shown and if more cleft-affected people were shown in the media, people like Wendy Williams would be stopped dead in their tracks by people who know better. But nobody did. Nobody stopped her, and she just kept on going with her show completely unaffected, because nobody ever stops the bully. As we wrap up here, I wanted to share with you some things that you should and shouldn't do and say when it comes to the cleft-affected people in your life. Number one, the word hair lip is derogatory and should only be treated as a slur. Number two, we just want to be understood. So please make an effort to listen to us, even if we're a little bit hard to understand sometimes. Number three, please, please, please do not put us on the spot in public. Thoughtful questions are fine, and if you ask them respectfully, you shouldn't be afraid to ask them at all. I'm just saying that you should probably ask them privately and not put us on the spot. Number four, do some research. If you have questions and you are afraid to ask us, do a quick Google search, because Google knows a lot about cleft lip and cleft palate. Number five, just be kind. My story is not uncommon, and that is a shame. But it costs $0 to be nice to somebody, so you should do that. If you or someone that you love is cleft affected and you were hurt by Wendy Williams' words and actions, my heart is right there with you. If you need support, comment down below, or send me an email, or find me on social media. I've got my links in the description. Even if this video is 10 years old when you see it, I will always be here to talk to you when you need help. In closing, I wanted to give to you a list of other public figures who are cleft affected, because representation matters. I know that there are a lot more than just these, but here's a short list. Jesse Jackson, politician. Peyton Manning, NFL quarterback. Cheech Marin, actor. Tom Brokaw, news presenter. Doc Holliday, 1800s gunfighter. King Tut, ancient Egyptian pharaoh. Perhaps that you knew some of these people were cleft affected, but perhaps it was a complete surprise. My hope with this video is that by sharing my story and by sharing this information with you, my fellow clefties everywhere will feel better represented and feel more willing to share their own stories, but only when they're ready. If you liked this video and you found it informative, please do me a favor and hit the like button down below, because it helps tell the YouTube algorithm that this is interesting, informative content that more people need to be aware of. Please feel free to share this video with anyone and everyone to help get the word out. I've left some links in the description box for more information regarding cleft lip and palate, as well as information for organizations which accept donations in order to provide corrective and therapeutic services for those of us who are affected, whose families would not be able to afford those services otherwise. As always, I want to thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you around.